Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan.
Give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Wow, no good.
Mm-mm.
All right, let's try that again. What's up, party people?
What happened to the old way?
I don't even remember how it is to do it.
Great. We've broken the show.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
one more time.
All right, one more time, and this is what we're going with. What's up, party people?
All right.
Now everyone in the house is pissed off at me. Anyways, she is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread a word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. We love engaging with you, and make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
I just want to say we do have that one little recording from the day that we clinched where you also said, "What's up, party people?" I think, or give me that beat. I was going to say you can go back and do some homework.
I was the give me that beat.
Oh,
It was that give me that beat. Sorry.
All
I
right,
didn't
we're
mean
gonna
to
have
ruin
to
it.
we're gonna have to fix that.
So, people, at the time we are recording this, we are still waiting to see who the Dodgers are going to be playing. It was a crazy first day of wild card games. Very, very exciting. Amie, real quick before we talk about what we're going to talk about today, would you like to see these all of these series go all 3 games,
No,
or do you even care?
I mean I've been checking them out, but no, I just unless it's good baseball. Like if it was the first game that we saw in that why am I blanking? The Mets Braves, like that was a really good game on Monday afternoon. That second game was like, eh. So I want to see more of the first than the second in this wild card series.
Well, I think that first game between the Royals and the Orioles, I love that kind of baseball. I know a lot of people don't. It was a 1-0 game. I
Oh,
thought
you with your low scoring game numbers.
I thought that the finish of the Tigers of Detroit versus the Astros, that got very, very interesting. So I like that kind of theater. But we'll see. We're still waiting to see who the Dodgers are going to end up playing. It's either going to be the Bravos or the Show Pods. But there is some drama with the Show Pods. So I want to start off the show with this, Amie. So last week,
I'm gonna try to tone it down.
you got some strong feelings about this, right? So you got to come in, you got to bring the heat. So last week, while the show pods were here in Los Angeles, and for those who are living under a rock and don't know, but Mookie Betts has his own podcast, and usually what he does is he'll interview a player from the opposing team. Well, it seems
just
like,
for those who want to do their own research, it's on for Bleacher Report, but it's called On Base with Mookie Betts.
that is correct. And it seems that the internet, a lot of people lost their mind because the day after the Dodgers lost the first game of the series, right after the triple play, Fernando Tatis was on Mookie's show.
So that's where it gets a little hazy because it was also reported that it was 11 a.m. Thursday that it happened.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So
well, either way, to me,
who knows when, but
that does not change my opinion on this, but I know you.
I wonder if we're going to be opposed or on the same page.
Let's find out, Amie. What do you think about this situation?
Cliffhanger. So was there anything else that you wanted to set up for it?
Other than the fact that the fans were very upset that Fernando Tatis was on the show with Mookie, that Mookie was interviewing them. I'm sure what fans were upset about was the timing of it, of him being on the show while the series was still going on. I am completely baffled. Poor Mookie, to me, just gets
Why
so
does
much.
Everybody hate him so much. Like the backlash he gets. Like, I hope he knows there are actually fans who love him here because I think the guy's a stand-up player. I love what he does on and off the field, but by some of the comments he gets, you wouldn't think that he was such a stand-up guy.
Yeah, like for me, Mookie can help a blind person across the street, and he will be accused of socialism. That's how I feel everyone reacts to Mookie. But Amie, is this a story or a non-story to you?
This is such a non-story to me. I think it's ironic. So before we dive a little further into the Mookie thing, but Tatis also moved positions, and I mean, granted, we don't totally follow all the Padres news. I don't remember him getting such a backlash for moving around the field.
He won a Gold Glove
Well,
out
yeah,
in the outfield.
but it's like Mookie gets moved from second base to shortstop to right field, and people try to make this narrative about like him moving all over. Is he not a professional? Is he not skilled? Did we not see him play all of those positions and play them well and put in the time off the field, not like during, like before games? Like, I don't understand why he gets so much backlash when he is the epitome of a professional. Like, I put him up there with Shohei, and, Shohei's 10-hour sleep schedule and his naps and the preparation he does. I feel like they're all up there. Even as this was going on, he ended up taking like 400 swings in the batting cage before this series was over to try to find his swing. Like, there were even reports that his hands were blistered. Like, this guy cares. And the narrative for some reason is just that like he doesn't care. He's out bowling all the time, or like whatever people are making up. And I just don't understand. Just because he gets a paycheck from the Dodgers, he's not beholden to them 24 hours a day. And I feel like that's kind of the mentality that some people have, like where they feel like they can question every moment of his time. I don't know. Do you get a different read off of that?
Well, there's two aspects of this, and you had mentioned the 400 swings. I want to get into that afterwards.
Okay.
I want to.
So we're putting a pin in that one.
I'm putting a pin in that one. I want to deal with him in the show and him having Tatis on there. I thought we were going to disagree on this. Honestly, I thought you were going to come in hot and you were going to say he shouldn't have had
really
Tatis on.
I see, this to me goes to the humanity of the game. I want to see more of this. I want to hear from the other teams. Notably, I am not always a fan of the Padres. I'm not always a fan of the players and their attitudes, the fan base, whatever. But I feel like this is not only in baseball as a microcosm, this is also something that we deal with in society too. It's one thing to like not know a person and you decide, you make that split-second decision of how you feel about them, and then maybe later you learn something about them that gives you common ground, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, I totally had misconceptions about you. Hearing that interview with Tatis, it humanized him for me, where they talked about even like the unwritten rules. That was my first introduction to him a couple of years ago, was that bat flip and hitting, when he shouldn't have. And it was really interesting to even just hear his perspective of like, well, when he was playing, in his country, like that wasn't a big deal. Like they didn't know about the unwritten rules. And Mookie agreed, you don't know until you break one, and then the whole world lets you know. But like, even the question was put to them, like, would you bunt in a perfect game? Like, unwritten rules wise, you shouldn't, right? But if you're going to win a game, shouldn't you try to break it up? Like if there's competition?
Yeah, no. I look, for me, this is a non-issue. This is a non-story.
I was so disappointed in the fans that said negative stuff about him.
This is and look, I know, because I'm a man who shakes his fist at the cloud as well. I know there's many times I have sat here and been like, oh, back in my day, or the old way of doing things, that was the right way of doing.
Get off my lawn.
This to me feels like a very, old man shaking fist at cloud moment, where back in the days where we were growing up, like, players would never fraternize with one another. And to me, that is just an antiquated way of thinking. The world has evolved, especially in other sports. A lot of these guys grew up playing with each other. Mm-hmm. I'm not sitting here and saying that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were best friends or anything like that, but they had a relationship. For me, this whole idea of you don't fraternize with one another, This is a non-story. This is look. There is a reason why these guys are major leaguers. Okay,
And also, game recognizes game.
well, yeah, not only that, but there's a couple of things. All right, there's a reason why these guys are major leaguers, and that's because they can do things that not a lot of us that sit on the couch and watch the games can do. That's the reason why we're watching them do it. So I know this is really hard to believe sometimes for fans, and that is that people can actually do other things in their life and still be good at the one thing that they're getting paid for.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
No, hear me out. I have more. So,
but wait, there's more.
There's more. So I don't have, and look, to me, look, he's made it very clear. I feel like he's been transparent about this. The reason why he's doing this is because he is planning his career for after baseball, which to me is smart, which is something that a lot of other players should do.
Do you remember when he got backlash for being on the show or on the broadcast with Joe and Oral?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he should be in the dugout. Why? What? I want to turn the question around.
In case he forgets how to play baseball, I mean, that's why he needs to be in the dugout.
Why do they care? Why is this so important? Like the fact that he had to, so he did this, the interview with Tatis, and then the next day he had to answer questions on Dodger Talk with Dave Vassegh about it. And like, I have the transcript if you think that's important. So
go ahead. Give the full call. So we can give
it was like a 3-minute interview, but I'll read this quickly. So the question got asked and he said, a lot of fans didn't like it. They got thinking I don't care, or that the series meant too much to be a normal person. I don't understand how that correlates, but it is what it is. I mean, it didn't matter. Like, I've been trying to get Tatis for a minute. I've been trying to get these guys. It's not the podcast. So this transcript's a little hazy. It has nothing to do with the game. It's about getting to know the players of the game. That's the whole point. Like some people may not have ever heard from Tatis or where he's from or why he does what he does. That's the point of the podcast. That's the whole objective of it. And I don't understand how me doing that, bettering myself in my life and not getting in the way of my job, I don't understand how that affects people. But people, are going to, what did he say? People are going to have their opinions, basically. And it just kind of feels like baseball is behind the other sports. And it feels like we're trying to market the sport. Sorry, the transcripting of Dodger Talk, it's a little choppy. But basically, he can't stop living his life or trying to make it better, especially when he's still performing on the field. Like, how is this hurting anybody?
Well, that leads me that interview that you with Vassegh, that leads me to another thing, which is for him to come out there and give those answers in that interview. To me, that says he is very aware. He hears the chatter. It
was on during the show too. People were commenting during the show, so he was already seeing it as they were doing that interview.
And that's something, Amie, where I don't know where I stand on that, because I'm just like, bro, you shouldn't care what we think. I mean, you're already in another, you don't owe us anything. Live your life, right? And then these are the
same people who want the accountability when media is interviewing after the games, though.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I have not seen anything that shows that him doing this show is affecting his play on the field. If he doesn't get a hit with runners in scoring position, and this is where I'm going to steal a line from you, that's baseball. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Under the 14-minute mark, we have our first. It's baseball.
Well, and people were saying it was poor timing even in the middle of a series, but he made the point on the show with Tatis that what we do in the lines is different than what we're doing right here. And you and I have seen, like, players wind down however they want in that clubhouse before the game, before they start getting work in or after they get work in. Some play video games, some play games, some play card games. If he wants to use his time and interview another player, how does that? It's not like he didn't show up for practice because he was interviewing Tatis. Like, he did this on his own time, and I feel like this would be the time to hear. Like, I want to hear from this guy on the other side. Like, we're in the middle of a series against him. I just being by saying that he can't do things outside of baseball or that he can't compartmentalize that, I think is doing a disservice to him and any other player. So you're saying that he can only be dialed in and be focused. He can't go talk to the player on the other side and then be competitive on the field. Like that, I think that's taking away from his qualities and his ability as a player.
Let me ask you this, because there's been the few people that I've talked to about this have brought this up to me, and I'm curious if it makes a difference to you. If he would have done this during a playoff series against the Show Pods, does it change your opinion?
Nope. Who cares? Like, if he's missing out on actual preparation and practice, that's a problem. He's talking to another player on the other side. These guys do it before the games when they're on the field doing batting practice. We saw Kenley Jansen come to town, and they spent like the better portion of batting practice. All of his old teammates gathered around talking to him. So should they just not talk to them before a game because we're about to play them? Like that, it does a disservice to all of them that they can't not even multitask, but compartmentalize all the different aspects of their job.
Yeah. In my response to that, when I was asked that, was like, I don't think he would have done it during the postseason. I don't think he would have done it because I think
what changes for you if it is in the postseason?
I still, again, to your point, I haven't seen anything that shows that this show is impacting his ability to play. Mm-hmm. But for him to do it during the postseason, for me, there's just a different level of energy or intensity between the regular season and the postseason. And I think,
can somebody tell that to ESPN then for all these in-game interviews? Because those are disruptive. Those are during the game. He's doing this in his free time.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think Mookie is smart enough that he knows, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to bring unwarranted heat on me. During the regular season, like I said, I think this is a non-issue. This is him. But I don't think he would have done it.
Give him crap? Why? Like, why do people care?
It is very. I don't know.
People don't do it to Freddie or to any other player. Like, why?
Do you think the level, the expectations that they have for Mookie are different?
But why should they be
more for Mookie than from Federico?
Why?
Because there is a
and
narrative.
That's not directed like combative at you, but like, why should there be a different expectation?
Because I think there was before Shohei showed up, before the unicorn showed up, I think there was a narrative that the two best players in Major League Baseball were Mike Trout and Mookie Betts, and that Mookie Betts was number 2, right? Okay. And, Mike Trout has not had any success in the postseason, but Mookie has had success in the postseason. And the last few postseasons, Mookie has not had success. So you have that pressure from the Dodgers. Hey, man, you came here in your first season, which is something that Shohei can do. And that is in your first season that you came over here, you won a World Series. Now the expectation is every year you got to make us win a World Series. Or if not, at least, hey, I did my part. No one else helped me, but I delivered.
I think you can only do so much in those cases too, though. Like, to your point of even Shohei having to carry the team this season, that's unrealistic. It's a team effort. It's not Shohei in the World Series.
No, I agree with you. I do. I had that same question that you have as to why is it because Mookie puts himself out more than Federico? Like, Federico doesn't have his own podcast. Federico's not out there being a guest commentator. Like, Federico doesn't do that stuff. Mookie does. But again, for me, I feel he's been very transparent. He's telling everyone why he's doing this. He is preparing for his career after baseball.
And he doesn't even owe anybody those explanations either. Like, you and I have had conversations in our personal life of things we owe explanations to or not. And it's like, he's doing it. It's not interfering with, his time on the field. Like, to your point, total non-story. And if fans want to get, like, I'm worked up about this because, like, I'm super protective of him because I'm just so tired of people taking shots at him. But it's like, why do you care? Like, why? If you don't like it, don't watch the podcast. Did he show up and take 400 swings to the point that his hands were blistered? it's the narrative that people keep saying that he doesn't care. It's like every single thing he does is under a microscope. Well, he didn't show up to FanFest in whatever year that was. Okay, well, other players didn't show up either, but you're only going after him. I'm baffled by it.
It's just like I said, and this is his choice. He has let us in on all the other stuff that he's done. These other players, they don't let us in. So for all we know, these other players may be doing the same thing that Mookie does. It's just there's one particular aspect of Mookie's life that is very public. And because of that, and you have said this many times before, are you a fan of the team or are you just fan of winning? And I feel the people that complain the most about this stuff are those that are fans of winning. So if you don't win, and this happens in society all the time, is we have to blame someone. There's got to be a reason why this didn't work out, right?
And that's where I laugh, because I'm like, not everything needs a blame or a scapegoat. Sometimes that's just life. And you and I have had these conversations where I feel like he can't catch a break, and he works really hard. And I think that's what's disappointing to see this. And I think you're right. For him, like, yes, the question is going to get asked. So he's almost kind of got to give an answer. Like, in my opinion, I agree with you. He shouldn't even have to address this. It's a non-issue. But when you have somebody on, like Dave Vassay on Dodger Talk, asking him, like, what do you think of all the backlash you're getting, or however the question was phrased, like, what does he say in that situation that's not going to get him more ire from the people who are already tearing him down? Like, it truly just feels like he can't win with people. And I hope he knows that there are fans out there that respect him, see him as a professional, and are glad that he's on our team.
What else do you have for us, Amie? What other updates do you have?
Oh my gosh, there's all across baseball, all kinds of stuff. So you'll be happy to know that your buddy Manfred and the MLB,
Manfredi?
Yes, your bestie. The MLB announced that the All-Star Game uniforms next year will be back to the primary home and road uniforms.
So it's gonna be 2025, not 2026.
So the other update, that's the regular season uniforms.
Okay. Right.
So he's got 2 uniform updates. You know, the ones that were going to be fixed this season. But so for everybody, which is so funny because this announcement went out, and then you see people in the comments, well, I really like the All-Star Game jerseys.
Oh, really?
There were a handful, and then those people got commented back of like, bro.
They got booed out of the chat. Is that what happened?
It's just like, no. The majority of people were excited. Like, I want to be able to recognize my players on the field. Like, I don't know why the change was made in the first place. And
who knew Manfredi listened to the show?
Right? Well, you'll be happy to know. I mean, his timeline doesn't align with ours, but Anthony, I hope I don't kill his name, but Castrovince, he's with the MLB Network. He reported that the MLB is returning to the previous uniform materials and letter sizing, and they're doing away with the 2024 uniforms. So the changes will start next year in 2025 and be fully implemented by the start of 2026. So if it's on any timeline like what we saw this year, where it was going to be fixed, kind of by the start of the season, we'll probably see it by the end of 2026. So,
look, Amie, it's accountability. It's not necessarily full accountability. It's not standing in front of a microphone and saying, you know what, we blew it, but we're going to fix it. But them doing this is them admitting we messed up.
Well, my best friend and I were watching some of the games this weekend, and like just the sweat on their jerseys, like the fact that it's not even the same. First of all, they're not the same color as the pants, especially when they're in the grays, but like you could just, it's just not a good look. So I'm glad they're making changes. And then I think I had sent you a message that Isiah Kiner-Falefa, he was given the option to play this weekend, and he declined in favor of a younger player getting a chance instead. And he was 4 games shy of a performance bonus. So just a little more humanity to baseball. From the sound of it, Derek Shelton didn't know about the bonus when he was setting in the lineup. So he offered Isiah a chance to start when he found out, and Isiah found out the night before. He didn't want to fight it. He was like, it is what it is. And so an hour before the game, they gave him the option to play. And he said, I'd been hurt during the season. I didn't really feel like I deserved the bonus. And, basically the kid should get to play.
Wow. That, so he was 4 hits shy, you said, of the bonus?
See, I have 4 games, but it looks like, I think I
4
wrote it down.
games, right.
I think it probably was 4 hits and I just wrote it down wrong. Because 4 games wouldn't be accurate. So that could be a base running blender on my side.
Look, I think that's huge of him to do that, especially in a sport where a lot of times you hear athletes say, don't mess with my money.
Mhm.
I mean, when you have Tommy Pham stabbing people out in the outfield
Oh my
because of a fantasy football game, look. And
Sorry, 4 plate appearances shy. That was I wrote that in wrong.
wow,
4 plate
that to me is
appearances.
a bigger deal. It's not even
Yeah,
hits. It's
my bad.
plate appearances.
Jose Ayala, I fixed it. I ran back. I didn't get picked off.
To me, I think what's even bigger is the fact that he said, I don't think I earned it, because there's a lot of people that look. I don't know what his situation is. Maybe he's smart with his money and he's
Mhm.
not in a position. But there's a lot. Who knows how? Does it say how much the bonus was by any chance?
It didn't. They didn't disclose that.
So
But
I'd be curious to see how much of a bonus it is, and because I'm sure his wife might have been like, "What?" If he is married or anything like that, it's like, we could have used that money, but look, what can you say? I mean, that says a lot about him and his character for him to go ahead and do that. So yeah, give it that
yeah.
man his flores, man.
Right. He said, I felt good about Peggy having that opportunity, or whoever was in that situation. At the end of the day, I'm very thankful that they gave me that option. That meant a lot to me. So hey, flores for communication too. Somebody made a mistake. They communicated about it. They fixed it.
Yeah, that's impressive. What else do you got?
On the heels of that, just some White Sox Oakland news. White Sox did end up shooting past that Mets record, so they ended the season with 121 losses.
Woohoo, White Sox!
You know,
Congratulations.
not
to
the
los
record you
Medias
want to
Blancas.
set, but hopefully your friends who are White Sox fans have a better season next year. It's only up from here, guys. It's only up from
Yeah,
here.
I would love to be able to talk baseball with my friends in Chicago, but unfortunately, it's a lot of them are like, I don't watch baseball anymore, man. I'm just like, oh, it's so sad. So sad.
Yeah. The owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, put out a whole letter of like what they're going to try to do. And in the tweet from John Boy Media, just basically like summarizing it, there's, he calls the season, it's this historically bad season, a failure, embarrassing, and unacceptable, among many other things in that letter. So hopefully
Well,
we'll see some changes.
as my boys in Chicago said, apparently they're going to clean house over there. So, look, for me, I think having both teams in Chicago be good and be competitive is good for Major League Baseball. So I don't want this to continue. I really don't. So I hope they do get this. I would love to say that they get shamed into this, but as we can see what happened with the Oakland A's, there are some people that just don't have shame. And I don't know what update do you have for Oakland, but does it include what Larry Beal's response was?
I don't know. Mine was more just like seeing all of the fan posts after the last game, and like you could see fans crying, and a lot of them were posting like it's real now, like, and you could just see the emotion. And it's just unfortunate because a lot of that was posted with like the MLB wants, to expand to 32 teams, and it's like when you have fans and you're literally seeing them like this, tell the fans you don't care about them without telling them you don't care about them is what that says to me, with not holding the White Sox accountable, Oakland and this situation. Like it's unfortunate for the teams. Like we're spoiled on our side. We're going to our 12th postseason in a row. And these teams just want a competitive like lineup on the field.
Yeah, I mean, there's the video of fans taking dirt from the infield in Oakland.
One of the grounds crew, like the shoveling and helping them over. Like,
well, I mean, there was video also of them taking seats from the. I don't know how they got away with that.
they didn't. One of the reporters that we reported from a couple weeks ago, she did say security stopped them and made them put them back. So
Like, did they have wrenches on them? How the hell did they unbolt? They literally just would. Are those like strong people that just literally
Yes.
just rip the seats out?
they were the strong people. Susan Slusser from the San Francisco Chronicle was reporting on it, and she's like, calm down, they didn't actually take them out of the stadium. So
Well, my Larry Beal thing. So Larry Beal, excuse me. He used to work for ESPN, and now he is a sports anchor out in the Bay Area. And John Fisher, so Jerry Reinsdorf put out a letter for the fans, but John Fisher also put one out. And
he got
did you
a lot
see
of
it?
slack for
Did you
that.
see it?
Yeah.
Larry Beal, during the telecast, during the newscast, he took John Fisher to task. Like,
I did see that then. Yes.
he literally read the whole letter and, like, point by point was pointing out that this was all bullshit, that he was wrong. And one of the things that he came out and said was, like, when John Fisher said, I wish I could talk to everybody. And then Larry Beal's like, you did have that opportunity, but you chose not to. And this is what I mean by, Amy, that, oh, well, we'll shame them into doing the right thing. There are certain people that have no shame, so you can't do that. And the fact that it is still up in the air, look, I want to remind everybody, there is no done deal in Las Vegas, for the A's to go over there. The only thing that is done is that they're going to be playing in Sacramento. Now, I know that they dug out a home plate at the Coliseum, and they're sending it to the Hall of Fame. What's going to crack me up is, so the Coliseum, to my understanding, is being sold. Okay.
Yes.
So what happened?
It's already sold. It's transferring at it should have transferred. Hold on. I have the details from our show that actually had that information. So if you want to continue, I'll fill in.
Well, to me, like, what happens if, the players union steps in and you guys can't play in Sacramento? This is not acceptable.
Which they've been quiet thus far. So it's the African American Sports and Entertainment. They owned half of the Coliseum. They now own both halves. And the deal was done at the beginning of September, and ownership was supposed to transfer later at the end of September. So we're now in October. So now that they own both halves, essentially, that's what people were curious. Will they be willing to rent it out now that they own it? And at that point, does the Players Association get involved?
Which makes me, there's a part of me that thinks, Amy, what if next year they go, you know what? No, we're gonna keep playing in the Coliseum. So then they have to go back to the home to Cooperstown and say, hey, we need our home plate back, or are they just going to put in a new home plate? And then when they eventually leave, we're going to do this all over again. I mean, look, John Fisher, if we're doing a blame pie, John Fisher deserves a large portion of that blame pie. But
I love pie, but I don't want him associated with that.
But Major League Baseball, they have to share the blame in this. Allowing this to happen, it just does not look good.
Well, and that's where you cannot be. People are complaining about, the way that the expansion has happened with the postseason, with the playoffs. Like, and now you want to do this with, expansion teams in general. We can't clean up your house first, because the way that it's going, not okay. Kind of in line with people cleaning house and whatnot. I think we reported last week that Skip Schumacher will not be renewing with the Marlins. The Giants just let go of Farhan Zaidi, who was with the Dodgers at one point and then went over to manage or, be the head of baseball operations for the Giants. And Buster Posey, who was on the board, he'd bought a share into the team, will actually be taking over as president of baseball operations.
Which is, to me, very, very interesting. One, when I heard the news, immediately I said, Farhan's coming back to the Dodgers. We're going to see Farhan in some sort of position. It'll be... Well, look, if Farhan doesn't have any other offers, I could see him going back to the Dodgers to try to rehabilitate his image. Like, I don't know what kind of image he has, because for me, when I listen to baseball people talk, they say no one wants to take San Francisco's money. Nobody wants, like, the Giants had money and they couldn't get anybody to sign there. Now, Why is that? I know a lot of people say, "Wow, they don't want to live in San Francisco because of what's going on up in San Francisco right now." I don't know if it's because Farhan is known as a sabermetrics person and they want to get away from that, or if it's people. I mean, look, if you have a lot of money, usually players will take it regardless. Or
But
is there,
they missed out. Like there was an article, I think it was in the Athletic, that was talking about how they missed out on Judge, they missed out on
yeah,
Shohei, and what actually contributed to that. Was it it was actually a story by Andrew Baggerly in the Athletic, that was kind of outlining a lot of the points that you're making.
like if nobody's knocking on his door and the Dodgers do reach out to him, but let's say it's going to be, I mean, it's not going to be a general manager because that's Brandon Gomes. That position is filled. But hey, you want to come over here and work as a special assistant? Because I do feel that there's still people in that front office that have a lot of respect for him. But if there's other teams in Major League Baseball that are going to offer him a bigger role, like I can see him coming back for a season, like I said, just to rehabilitate himself and then going somewhere else with another team. But I'm just curious to see how much of a stain he, because look, they had that one season where they played out of their mind. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like a complete mess up there in San Francisco. But I am curious to see how much. Look, I don't know if you saw the story where the owner of the Serpientes was basically bad mouthing Jordan Montgomery. So
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen if
Finger
Farhan.
pointing there. Everybody's got to have a scapegoat. Gee.
Exactly. So I don't know if stuff's going to come out about Farhan now that he's gone, that they're going to basically blame him for everything.
Well,
Uh,
that article started a little bit of the blaming, I think. So,
yeah, but I don't know. Immediately when I heard the news, I thought I see him back with the Dodgers.
hmm,
I think they do
interesting.
value his opinion, but I could be surprised if he gets a better offer somewhere else. Then you go ahead and do it. What else do you got,
Well,
Amy?
well, I mean, that's pretty much what's going around baseball is like the teams that didn't make it, you're seeing like the blame shift and the restructuring and the firing already. The only other thing I have on here was you mentioned Pete Rose, so I didn't know if you wanted to say anything else about him.
Yeah, why don't we end on Pete Rose? Go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
So Pete Rose passed away last year. I don't know. Do you know how old he was when he passed away?
Old.
Okay, we got that. One of the things I think is fascinating is immediately even people who don't know that much about baseball, when you mention Pete Rose, they know enough to say that they know he was banned for life because he
83.
gam-
He was
okay,
83.
83 years old.
Mhm.
He was banned for life because he bet on baseball. And I'm like, that is what his legacy is to a lot of people. Now,
And somebody came out and actually clarified that. Craig Calcaterra said that Pete Rose was not given a lifetime suspension. He was placed on the permanently ineligible list like Joe Jackson. So he said that people have been misstating that for 30 years, and it's probably going to continue to happen, especially in light of his death.
well, and so that is a very important distinction because there has been a lot of talk since he passed away. Will he? I'm going to totally butcher this word. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm having a hard time pronouncing posthumously. Uh,
Posthumously. You got it.
will they posthumously put him into the Hall of Fame? But according to that, if it is a permanent ban, then
Permanently ineligible.
even if he's dead, they're still not going to. And even if they did that, Amy, I think Major League Baseball would look really bad because it's
Mhm,
like, wait, you guys waited until he died to put him in?
mhm.
But here's my whole thing because there's a lot of people that say he should be in the Hall of Fame. Look, for me, he's already in the Hall of Fame because his records are in the Hall of Fame. The only thing that he's not in the Hall of Fame is in terms of his bust, his actual, shrine that, he's a player that's inducted, but all his records are in the Hall of Fame. So for me, he is already in the Hall of Fame. You have to, if you're going to have rules, you have to enforce them. And that is a big one. Look, there's also a reason why Barry Bonds and some of these other guys who you could not formally prove that they were on steroids, there is a reason why they're not in the Hall of Fame. Now, will they eventually get into the Hall of Fame? I don't know. But guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, they're not in the Hall of Fame. But look, the home run record is in the Hall of Fame. So technically, Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure Roger Clemens, some of his accolades are in the Hall of Fame as well. So I do consider those guys, even though they were not formally inducted into the Hall of Fame, they're already in the Hall of Fame. So, Amie, let's first, should they change this? Because I'm sure they can.
No.
So they can't. They can't.
Oh
change
no,
the
I'm
ruling?
with you. I'm with you. They shouldn't. If you already put him on the permanently ineligible list, then why would you backtrack?
Okay, so you
Especially
wouldn't put
with all of
put
the
him into the Hall
gambling
of Fame.
issues we've had.
Well, that's what's good. That's fascinating, right? Is because the sport has openly embraced gambling,
I
and now
can't
they
tell
look.
you how many tweets I've seen just in the span of today's wildcard games commenting on how many gambling ads have been throughout the series.
So I get it. I get it. It does come off as hypocrisy. And I'm sure people all use that as their argument as to why. But for you, there's no reason to put him into the Hall of Fame.
Well, like you said, like the stats are there and the stats speak for themselves. But if they made that ruling, you're not supposed to bet on, like you're not supposed to do it. So don't do it. Like, I don't have anything beyond that. Like, you knew what you were doing was wrong. You still did it. They put you on their permanently ineligible list. Like, if Joe Jackson can't get in, like.
Well, I want to leave you with this because someone posed this question to me, and I didn't have a definitive answer. And that was, in terms of athletes, is there anyone that has a more conflicted legacy than Pete Rose? I don't know if you saw Eduardo Perez as he was calling the game for the Bravos and the Mets on Monday. He was one of the first ones that confirmed Pete Rose's death, and you could see he got very choked up because he grew up in that locker room. His dad played with Pete Rose, and he had a relationship with Pete Rose Jr. He referred to him as my brother. They grew up together, and he's like, he confirmed it. His dad has passed away. And you saw how emotional he got. And it was very interesting to me to see the other side where it's like, yes, there's a lot of people. Like, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, the commissioner who did go ahead and put the permanent ban on him, Bartlett Giamatti, do you know who his son is, Amie?
Paul?
Yes, the actor Paul Giamatti. If you ever hear Paul Giamatti talk about Pete Rose, there is a lot of anger from Paul Giamatti directed to Pete Rose. And Paul Giamatti says, that guy made my dad's life miserable, right? So it is interesting where you see Eduardo Perez's reaction where he's holding back the tears that Pete Rose died. And then you see someone like Paul Giamatti saying, no, what this guy did was not only did he hurt the integrity of the game, but he actually hurt a lot of people. So,
Well, I think that's where it's not mutually exclusive. I think in baseball, especially when we're looking for blame and scapegoats, people tend to look at this game as very black and white. Even with Mookie, you can only play, you can't do this stuff. Like, no, life is full of gray areas. So I think you can love and respect the contribution that he made to the game and the accomplishments that he had, but also be disappointed in the choices that he made that led him to, not be instilled in the Hall of Fame. And I think that goes to it did hurt people. Similar, I just had this conversation with somebody about the Houston Astros, and it wasn't that the Dodgers should have won that World Series. I would have liked the opportunity to see if they could have gone that far. We don't know if they would have won or not, but it wasn't just the Dodgers that they impacted. Because that happened all season long, that impacted players on other teams. It impacted their stats, whether they got re-signed, whether they retired if they were at the end. It wasn't just the Dodgers that were hurt by that. Similarly with Pete Rose, other people were hurt. And it to me, that is where the disrespect to the game comes in. And that's where, again, it's not mutually exclusive, though. You can still appreciate the contributions that he made.
yeah, and that's why he has a conflicted legacy. Look, he had the nickname Charlie Hustle. A lot of people admired the fact that, how he played the game. So there are a lot of people that speak glowingly about him. I will say this, there is a guy I know who got an autograph from Pete Rose, a signed baseball, autographed baseball. Do you know when he signed it, Amy?
No.
He signed it, Pete Rose, I'm sorry I bet on baseball.
Aww.
He literally he did that. And he owned up to it, I guess. Was there actually any remorse? That's a different story. But in terms of athletes who have a conflicted legacy, I don't know if this is conflicted. But right now, though, the name that popped into my head was O.J. Simpson. But I don't think it's conflicted because as great of a football player that he was, I don't ever hear anybody talk about how great a football player OJ is. All I hear is people say he got away with murder, right? With Pete Rose, and I get it. It's not, apples to apples, oranges to oranges. But in terms of athletes with a conflicted legacy, as much as Pete Rose has, I can't think of any.
I mean, I'm sure there are some out there. I don't do well on the spot, so I'm like,
I'm sorry. All right. So
oh no, that's not a. I can't think of any. My mind goes like when that happens.
No, for you, the listeners, your viewers, if you guys have an example of maybe an athlete that has the same conflicted legacy that Pete Rose has, please let us know.
Not to the level of Pete Rose, but I feel like Julio Urias is going to be one of those as time goes on.
Yeah,
not to the extent of the longevity of the career, but like what could have been.
Yeah, because he unfortunately, Julio did not have the same level of accomplishments as Pete Rose.
No. And that's where I mean, like,
yeah.
he wouldn't have the longevity of the career, but he will, when we look back at that World Series win, that last pitch that he threw, Austin Barnes catching it, there's always going to be conflict with that. Even if
I don't think we'll ever see that clip ever again, Amy.
Well, but that's like that again, not to the level of Pete Rose. I'm not trying to
right.
But
no,
but the conflict is there because that is now, we don't even have murals in the stadium because of that.
What about Kobe? Do you think Kobe? Because he was, before he passed away, I think he was trying to redeem himself and change his legacy. Whether he was successful or not at the end in changing that legacy, I don't know, because there are still a lot of people that I know when they speak of Kobe, there is that conflict where, he was a great player and all that stuff, but what he did, not only to that woman, but what he did to his wife, that doesn't sit right with people. So
that Tiger Woods,
there you go. Tiger Woods is another one. Yeah, these. So maybe it is one of those.
I feel like Pete Rose, like while it was still involved in baseball, so like he accomplished on the field, and then what he did was still tied to baseball. Where like when you look at somebody like a Tiger Woods or a Kobe Bryant, that was accomplishment on the court, or I don't know what golf terms are. I'm not even going to try, but like what they did that kind of was their downfall was in their personal lives. Where Pete Rose, it was a little bit linked, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's a situation of crimes and misdemeanors, right? I think people still view gambling as a victimless crime as opposed to the other issues with Tiger Woods and with Kobe. So I think maybe there's a distinction there.
And it's the, did it all happen on the field, or did it, like, is it
right?
I mean, even if you're going to go back so far as like the Black Sox, like that was a stain on the game, like, because again, much like Houston with the Dodgers, we'll never know what could have happened in that series.
Yeah, so I mean, it is one of, I don't necessarily have a connection to Pete Rose, so hearing the news, I think it's just one of those. Oh, he passed away. I'm sure if you grew up as a Reds fan or a Phillies fan, and Pete Rose was a very important, it'll have a different impact on you. But I don't think you can deny the fact that this is a player, a person who played in a very important role in the history of Major League Baseball. So I think it's important to acknowledge that he has passed away.
I agree. Rest in peace, sir. Not you, him.
Thank you. Anything else before we wrap things up?
No, at some point we'll recap the Sabre conference, but not today. Not today.
All right. All right.
Not on our postseason wrap.
No. Okay. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you've been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. What athlete has conflicted legacy? Let us know. Do you agree with any of our choices that we discussed with? And more importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.